This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 202. Stop being like everyone else. Are you a real estate agent who wants to build your real estate job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan or any plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom, the host of this podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction or a better direction if you're already in the business, I've created a free jumpstart course that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. freeagentgift.com. Get over there. It's simple. It's a simple plan. It's a wireframe. I wish somebody had given this to me many moons ago when I first started in the business, because I would have had a wireframe upon which I could build a business. So what I did for you is I created that and I put it up at freeagentgift.com. Okay, so the subject here today is stop being like everyone else. So that's the first point here, is that all real estate agents are the same. You hear that all the time from people, right? You real estate agents, you're all the same, right? Especially when we hear our telemarketers and we do our telemarketing training at the coaching program at the Realty Classroom. We do that on Fridays. And it's stunning how quickly somebody will cut somebody off and just use that quip. Or when somebody's trying to decide whether they should or shouldn't use an agent, they say the same thing. Well, what are you going to do for me? I can just go directly, and whatever it is. So all real estate agents are the same. And that's painful, right? I mean, that hurts. That's a thing that you hear, and here you are working hard at this, or worse, if you just got into the business, it can be disheartening that somebody says that. And that gets up in your head, and you really start to think, well, is that true? Is everybody the same? Are we offering all the same stuff? And are we all stuck in this spot where everything is the same? So that quip can be something that really makes your head spin. Now, what I would say in the second point here is, you have to break away from the herd of all the agents in a simple way. Because what if it is true? What if we all do sound the same? What if there's a conglomeration, like a bunch of baying sheep? All of a sudden, we sound the same. We're making the same noises. We're saying the same things. We're behaving the same way. And that happens. There's no doubt about it. And I've never seen an industry in my entire life behave the way that ours does. I mean, you can see it. The latest brokerage or national brokerage or international brokerage shows up and they make some wild claim. And it's just amazing, the exodus, the mass exodus of the agents that will just go from one brokerage to the next in the middle of it, as if there's some magical thing there. Well, there's a massive example that we're behaving like a non-thinking herd. So maybe we deserve that quip that we are all the same to a certain extent, right? So I'm not saying to be the lone wolf and break away from the pack completely, but I am saying stop baying like a sheep, right? Just, you have to think about, if you really sit down and think about it, how can you break away in a simple way? So this begs the question of, what's a unique selling proposition? How in a herd of sheep can I be heard differently? It seems so exasperatingly difficult, doesn't it? Well, the truth is, if you just sit down and think first, just think. You have to sit somewhere and think about the business that you're in. And oftentimes, like I think I probably did, I was a very aggressive salesperson by background, and I wanted to sell, but I did, my heart was definitely drawn in this direction. Wow. I mean, you can sell something to somebody that's the biggest financial and emotional transaction they'll ever make in their life, biggest decision. I was really compelled by that, but I really didn't sit still and attach to that as the reason why I wanted to do this, was to help somebody navigate the largest financial and emotional transaction that most of them would ever make in a lifetime. So when you look at it that way, all of a sudden you have a different perspective, and perspective is just a huge, massive topic in my brain these days. I'm learning much more about it. There's just an enormity of a body of work around what perspective is and how we see the world. But to simplify it, if you just see the world of real estate agents and what we do, we serve, right? It's the service business. It's not a product business. Yes, I know the house itself is a product, but unless you're listening to this podcast and you're actually a builder who builds the physical product, you're selling a house in that case, sure, a property, whatever it might be. But in our case, we're selling the service to either sell one of those properties, right? Or we're trying to acquire, help somebody acquire one. So sell it or acquire it. That's what we're trying to help people do, period. Well, that's a service thing. So again, how do you get different in the service? Is everybody going to say that they're unique in the way that they serve? That also becomes a little bit of a catch-22, tricky spot, slippery slope thing to deal with, right? So as I thought more about that, I just thought, well, maybe I don't want to fall into that defensive mode where, well, we're not all the same, and I have integrity, and I have work ethic, and we start to rattle off qualities. I've heard this for many years, and I've done them. Remember, I am you. I've done this business for a very long time. I've made all of these mistakes. I've had all this certain perspective that wasn't accurate. So, that's just the way it is, right? So when I looked at it, I said, well, what if I treated it? Instead of trying to compete with everybody else to be different, what if I just looked at the business and treated it completely differently? What if I looked at, and I'm a big fan of Henry Ford and the assembly line and all the work that he did manufacturing cars, and really everybody was a car manufacturer when Henry got into the business, but he looked at the way that things happened differently. He looked at the assembly line. And so I got up above my business and said, okay, if I were acting like Henry Ford, what could I do to make this different and get away from the herd? So my thought was to productize that service. Let that sink in for a second because it might not make sense to you. But productizing your service means, what if you sat down and wrote down everything that you did in order for a seller, and sat down and wrote down everything that you do for a buyer? Now, if you're brand new to the business, you'd have to get some help from somebody who's been in it and just interview them. You could do that and say, go to a veteran and say, because a lot of veterans cannot productize anything they do. They're just so transactional at that point in time. They're doing it. But imagine interviewing them and saying, take me through the process of what you actually and really do when you help a seller and why you're so successful. And now they start to go A, B, C, D. You read it back to them. Oh, no, I would put this in front of that. And they help you organize it. And what you have is essentially an index for a booklet on how to properly sell a house. And you were the curator, organizer of that information, even if you're brand new. Now, of course, if you are that veteran like me, I just went to Starbucks and I started writing. And I started to think about what the things were that I did. And I took my trusty yellow legal pad, my pen, which I always have in my backpack, a mobile entrepreneur, and I sat down, I started to think onto the paper. And I came up with this productization, or at least the index for it, of how a seller should go through the process and how a buyer should go through the process. And the first thing I did was I didn't try to write out a full-blown course. I just simply went and made an infographic. I made a circle and I put all the major 6 points for the buyer, 7 points for the seller, and I had a product. And now I know that sounds crazy simple, and that was the point here, break from the herd in a simple way. So I did. So instead of showing up at open houses with a business card, I showed up with an infographic for buyers. And if the nosy neighbor who wanted to sell came in too, I love that nosy neighbor, right? I love them. Keep sending them to me when you deride the buyers or liars or nosy neighbors. Yeah, I'll turn them into clients. So that's just a little quip there, right? So I had these two products, and I just put my business card information at the bottom of this productized information. And so it was just so simple. And then I got excited about that because people really liked them and they would take them, and I would engage in conversation, giving away my best stuff for free. Right? Here it was. If I were you and I were going to go out and buy, I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the way I would do it. And I know I just met you at an open house, so backtrack because it doesn't seem like you've gotten any representation and clearly no pre-qualification on a financial front. So go back up there and start. See, I had a thing that I could then go to, and it was just extremely unique. And people, I don't know why, but the herd, and again, I'm not knocking any of you that feel like you may be caught up in the herd. I'm saying, yes, guilty. Been there, done that. And I'm just telling you the way I got out. And I'm telling you how to get out. So understand, I'm not deriding you and I'm not trying to scare you if you're brand new. It's actually pretty easy to do this, and it's fun. Because what happens is there's a transition in this. Instead of trying to compete and knock each other over in this massive herd, we're simply standing in what I call a competitionless lane. We're beginning, not that we don't have any competition doing this. I mean, you go to 5 open houses and you come to mine, you probably got introduced to 4 other people that maybe even you liked better than you liked me. So, but when you came to me, I had some real information productized for you. It's my service organized, and given to you. So then, of course, as things progressed and I wanted to get better at it, I sat down and I went in those 6 points of the buyer, 7 points of the seller, and I wrote out even in more detail, more so what I would say. So I was beginning to productize my words and my thoughts, and I put it down in these simple booklets, and then I made them look good. And yes, I put a little bit of marketing in there where I would show somebody, what I sold using that methodology for the buy side and the sell side as I had the resume. But in the beginning, it didn't matter. So if you're brand new, it doesn't matter. We teach Griffin agents at our brokerage all the time. It doesn't matter. I have a 22-year-old gal who's been in the business right fresh out of college. Her first listing's a $950,000 listing that she got from an open house, simply giving away the productized service about how to sell your house, and then built a relationship off of that. First deal, $950,000. And a second deal, $1 million to an expired, giving them the same information. So it's really, really empowering when you break away from the herd, and it's simple. Productize your service. Next, once you understand what you've done, and it took me a while, I think, for this to sink in, I'm looking at this productized information and I'm thinking, why don't I give this to a lot of different people? Maybe that's the best business or business development move I could ever make. And so I did. I went all in on giving. And now listen, I am a marketing nerd. I'm a little bit of a tech nerd, meaning I'm interested and I keep searching and learning. So when it comes to marketing, and looking at how that was combining itself with tech and people were giving things away online, I really went all in. First, I created a physical giveaway. I still would tell you to this day, I love digital, okay? I'm all in on digital for sure, but it's still the Wild West, and it's still hard to navigate how to give away things and then still be able to have that opportunity to convert that relationship to a prospect and then a client. So the physical package for me, I cannot more highly recommend. You got to put together a physical product of what you would do for service and give it away. And see, what you're doing is you're giving that away, and what they'll magnetize back in is they'll come to you for the implementation of those steps. In other words, the service. They'll buy your service from you. The buyer will buy your service. The seller will sell. They will buy your service to sell their property, right? So that's what happens. So you give away information and you sell implementation. I heard once upon a time in a marketing world, and it's great advice because it works, but you got to go all in on giving away the information for real and really expecting nothing in return. And see, if you go back to the herd and you listen to them, here's where they all sound the same. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give away my best information for free because then they'll just go use it. They'll give it to one of my competitors. That's what the herd sounds like. And I too spoke that language once upon a time ago. I will never go back to that. I can't tell you how satisfying and energizing it is to give away real information and see the appreciation on people's faces and the relief on their faces. As I was writing this, I could go into it here, and I will in just a little bit of a tacit way. But if you go to the bonus section, my other podcast, I'm going to go into this deeply. People are really worried about being taken advantage of, and especially when you're involved in the single largest financial and emotional transaction in your entire life, you're afraid to be taken advantage of, either by people, aka agents, or yourself. See, that's why a lot of people, that's their defense mechanism to say, oh, you're all the same, because maybe they got burned once by an agent who was lazy, sloppy, transactional, non-helpful. That happens. We have a massive population of real estate agents out there. It happens that a lot of them are uneducated about how to go about this, and they leave a black eye for the industry. So I get it. I get that it's there. But one of the greatest ways to tear that wall down is to give the person that suffered a failure in this business, they couldn't buy the right house or the selling of it failed, give them away, give them this product and say, with or without me. That's a key term you really have to own deep inside. With or without me, this information will help you buy a property at the best price with the best features for you. This plan will help you sell your property for top dollar in a reasonable amount of time without feeling more harried than you have to during the whole process. It's just stunning how often people say, why doesn't everybody do this? "Bah," you can hear the herd say, right? Because everybody's just doing the same thing. Nobody's doing any thinking. Everybody's doing a lot of following. And then worse, we're all biting each other in that, that tight pen or that tight herd because we just can't seem to find our way free to do something unique, right? But I just want to leave us a little bit deeper than that with this power of giving. Think about this. The pain of being taken advantage of is really rough, right? You feel just so dumb. You didn't know what you didn't know, and your naivety is exposed and you get smacked, right? So when you give, what's happening is that person is now realizing that they can't be taken advantage of. If they understand the simple universality of what you gave them, that this is the truth. In other words, if they recognize that somebody is helping them not be naive in the context of selling or buying real estate, and they look at this plan, they read this plan, they become empowered. And when they become empowered, they become a little bit more bulletproof to being taken advantage of. And now they also realize they're not going to be the dummy, and they're going to recognize a true professional in our business because true professionals know these things. How effective is that? I mean, you talk about being in a competitionless lane by giving away your best what to do information for free, but then for them to consume it and realize it, do you think that's effective in magnetically attracting business inward? Well, if you don't, I'll tell you that's exactly the way I do business to the very day that I'm recording this podcast. And I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper into the giving and the deeper into the psychology of how that truly affects somebody and why it's so much better of a business. And now going into giving it to all the agents that we possibly can as we create this virtual agency under the brand The Griffin, where I run my brokerage, just trying to give more of it away to agents so they can give it more away. So there's this echo effect of giving. Because if there's not going to be a herd that's going to productize and give away the best what to do, at least we're going to go out and try to leave a better footprint so we stop hearing you're all the same. All right, let me go back and hit these bullet points again, just as a summary. Stop being like everyone else in the real estate business, please. And the first point is, we hear it all the time. All you real estate agents are the same. Okay, well, how do you break out of that? Second point is break from the herd, see it as a herd of sheep baying along, in a simple way by productizing your service. Put it down on an infographic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever they are, right? And then maybe even write it out for somebody. Checklist, booklet, like I did, whatever. The third point is go all in on this. I'm telling you, there's no better marketing. Even if you're running an ad on Facebook or Google or Instagram, wherever else, right? TikTok, on and on it goes these days. Give something away that actually empowers the person, whether they choose to do business with you or not. Because the fourth point is that power of giving shows them, right? That shows them that they can be empowered with the right information in the right order and not be taken advantage of by themselves, by other real estate agents, and that will draw them into you. Let me summarize it by saying the worst thing to hear from a consumer is that all real estate agents are the same. Although there could be nothing further from the truth, if agents are all saying the same thing, following the same techniques, right, just to take the next transaction, then the consumer may be right. You can break, though, or you can break free of this, from this condemnation by the consumer, by simply productizing your service and giving it away for free. This action has a deep and empowering effect on the consumer, who will then finally see you is truly unique. All right, remember, you can take immediate action and get started in the right direction or a better direction if you're already in the business by getting a copy of our free simple business plan. It is the wireframe. See what I just said? I productized my coaching and I put it in an infographic, a one-page infographic, just like I did for sellers and buyers. But in this case, guess what? You are the one that gets it for free. So go over there, freeagentgift.com, get it. And then there's just a walkthrough of me talking through some slides that'll help you just get oriented with it. And that'll be a wonderful jump start for you to build a better business. Also, don't forget, of course, you can subscribe to this very podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We also post this content on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe to the Realty Classroom channel. Would also appreciate it if you would share our content with other real estate agents just like you so that they get the help that they need. But remember this, we sign off the same way every time. Nobody's coming for you. Absolutely nobody. So go get to work on your business, and we will see you in the next episode to help you do that. Thanks.